Back at it. Marcus Moore, Encyclopedia Black, Still Broke Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what you hear, like what you see. Let's get it going today. Let's get it popping, man. I mean, we're going to keep talking about this only because it is the head of the combine of the NFL draft. Is what should the Bears do with Justin Fields? Should the Bears take Caleb? Is the trade done with Atlanta already? There are a lot of things to get to and a lot of things that we have to talk about. And basically, I've alluded to it, but I just haven't really given my opinion on what I think and what the Bears should do and what they will do. Okay, so it's crazy on what's going on. It's so crazy that, listen, I'm in the Denver market right now, and I was just coming up my elevator, and I had on my Bears hat, and the guy literally said, "Hey, what are they gonna do? What are they gonna do with the pick? I don't know this guy from him. Never seen him before in my life." But even he asked me, "Hey, what are they going to do?" And this is the Denver market. He ain't worried about the Broncos. He's worried about what are the Bears going to do with the number one pick. So, you know what? I'm going to tell you what the Bears are going to do, and I'm also going to tell you what the Bears should do. Now, what I do think is going to happen, I do think that the Bears are going to trade Justin Fields. I believe they're going to trade him to Atlanta. I'm not sure what they're going to get, assuming they're going to get one of their second-round picks. I don't know what they're going to get outside of that, but I do think that they will trade him to Atlanta. I really don't see anybody else trying to put that type of capital into Justin, and I just think that's a really good fit for Justin. There's a sleeper team that I think is even a better fit for him, but I'll get into that a little bit later. But because that team's not going to happen. But as far as what's best for him and what I think he wants to do, I believe him going to Atlanta is a better fit. Excuse me, is a great fit for him. And I think Atlanta is going to be poised and aggressive to make that move to get Justin down back to Atlanta. There has been things about Pittsburgh. I do not like that fit whatsoever. I like him with Mike Tomlin. I just don't like the fit in Atlanta in Pittsburgh, because you got Kenny Pickett there. He still thinks he can play, and it just makes for a bad quarterback room. You got two young quarterbacks. Both of them think they can play. They're both trying to battle it out. Right now, you want both of these guys to be pretty much comfortable in where they're at for them to succeed and move forward. So I just don't like that. Plus, I don't love how Pittsburgh does offensive late. I didn't like how Arthur Smith ran Atlanta's offense when he had all those weapons. He didn't use them. So not a great fit for me. So, again, I think the Bears are going to trade the pick to Atlanta. They're going to get back one of their seconds, and there's going to be some change on top of that. Now, what should they do? Or what would I do? What would I do? Now, let me make this perfectly clear here, because a lot of things on Bears Twitter is that you have to be one guy or the other. You have to, if you like this guy, you got to hate the other guy, so on and so forth. That is not the case. Let me make this perfectly clear again. I like Caleb Williams and I like Justin Fields. I think that both of these players have the potential to be top 10 players at the position in the NFL. I think both Caleb and Justin, their ceiling is top 10. Now, where in that top 10, I can't tell you, but I do think they have the potential to do so. With that being said, if I were the Chicago Bears, I would trade the pick, and this is why. For me, if you trade the pick, you're going to get a lot of assets back there. But what you've seen from Justin and how his teammates feel about him and how the city feels about him and how the organization feels about him, and more importantly, what you feel about Caleb and what I feel about Caleb, I should say, I don't think the gap is big enough between Justin Fields and Caleb Williams to select Caleb Williams and not get the draft capital you can get. That's where I'm coming from on this. If you trade the pick, you keep Justin Fields still with a ceiling that I believe is top 10 in this league. Again, you have to believe that his ceiling is top 10. So I feel like I have a top 10 quarterback already in my building, potentially. Then I can trade the pick to Washington, because Washington has to make a play. They have to. They can't not at least try. Okay? Not with this kid being from the Washington, D.C. area. They cannot not try to do it. So they got to make a play at least. And they got to make a play that makes it seem like they tried to get him. Okay? So they have to offer something. So my thing is that you trade the pick to Washington. Okay? Or New England for that matter, but I think to Washington. You trade it to Washington. And then not only do you have the quarterback in the building, but you can possibly get the number one overall prospect in Marvin Harrison Jr. Some guys have him as the number one overall guy in front of Caleb Williams. So if I can get that, and then you tell me I can recoup my second round pick, which you probably could with Justin anyway, but you recoup the second round pick. But then we get another first round pick in 2025. So now I got 2 first rounds in 24. I got 2 first rounds in 25. And most likely I'm going to fight for another first round in 2026. So if you're telling me not only do I get Marvin Harrison Jr., who is possibly the number 1 overall prospect in this draft, then I'll get another first round in 25 and another first round in 26. So in the next 3 years, I have 6 first round picks over the next 3 drafts, and I get the number 1 player in the draft, and I have a top 10 quarterback. And see, now your number 9 pick, you have options here. Because if the DN is there that you like, take them, okay? Or you can possibly trade back again because you got your receiver that you wanted already. You got the quarterback. Now you can trade down again, accumulate another first or another second round pick, okay? So now you possibly have another first round pick coming on top of that. All right, at least at worst, another second coming on top of that. All right, for another guy to come up for you. And then now you can kind of maneuver around and say, hey, maybe I get the lineman that I want. Maybe you get a center that you like. Maybe you like a tackle at that point. Maybe like another DN at that point. Now you have options, okay? You possibly get 2 seconds. So now you went from 2 first rounders in 24 and no seconds to 2 first rounders in 2 seconds. And then you got another 2 first rounders in the next 2 drafts. So for me, I don't think the gap is big enough between Caleb and Justin Fields at their ceiling for me to say, hey, I'm going to give up all of that to draft Caleb Williams. That's where I'm at on this. It's not about Caleb Williams being better or worse than Justin Fields. It's not about that. It's about the gap between the two. Now, if I thought the gap was gigantic, then you go ahead and take Caleb Williams, okay? Or if you just say to yourself, listen, if you're the Bears and you can say to yourself, he is a can't-miss prospect. Like, there is no way we can mess this up. And even though our locker room is going to be upset that we let Justin go because he is a locker room favorite, he's a fan favorite, even though that's going to happen, this kid is so good, and he's so good right now because, again, you cannot miss the playoffs next year. You cannot. He's so good right now that we have to take him. Then go ahead and take him. Then take him. But I don't think so. Even if I think he's really good, I just don't think the gap is big enough. And when I say the gap, this is what it has to be. When you look at the gap of this, you're talking about Caleb has to be a top 5 guy and Justin has to be a 15 or back guy. Because if you're within a 5 to 10 or 5 to 8 or 5 to 9, and I gave up all that draft capital, then what are we doing? Then what are you doing? You basically just exchanged the guy for the same guy at that point in time. And that's what I think you're really doing. Again, I think Caleb Williams is that dude. I really do. I think he's going to be a great player in the National Football League. But I also think that Justin Fields is that guy as well. Okay, now you're going to sit up here and tell me, man, look at his numbers, look at this, look at that, and we're going to get into that. We're going to break that down because there's a lot of things that are getting misconstrued because it depends on which quarterback you like. You know, if you're a national media guy, it depends on how much research you've done, okay, and which quarterback you really like. And for me, I like them both. I really do. I like Caleb Williams and I like Justin Fields. But again, I'm trading the pick because I got to say to myself, if I can get Marvin Harrison Jr., the number 1 overall player in some drafts, not everybody's, but in some drafts, the number 1 overall player, and then I get 3 first-round picks over the next 3 drafts, and see, now that helps with your quarterback money, all right? Justin's on the hook for $5 million this year. You pick up his option, I believe it's $26 million in his 5th year, okay? Now, what I would do if I decide to go down my route here, I'm going to sign Justin Fields right now. I'm going to go ahead and extend him now, all right? Make him a fair deal. A little bit over Daniel Jones. I believe he's better than that. I don't think his agent is going to take a Daniel Jones deal. But if you say somewhere in that 40 to 45 million range, okay, for 4 years, maybe 5 if you can get it, okay, that's what I would do. And this is why. That extension is not going to kick in for another 2 years. So you're still going to have him on the $6 million, still going to have him on the $25 million, and then his extension will kick in after that. By that time, $42 to $45 million for a top 10 quarterback will be chump change. As the cap continues to go, we're going to be talking about guys making $55 to $60 million a year. So you got a top 10 quarterback at $42, $43, $44, $45 million. You are stealing him at that point in time. You are stealing him. So now you got him under wraps for the next 4 or 5 years at that money. And the reason why that money is fair is because we can sit here and say that, you know what, there's argument on both sides of the ball that Justin hasn't done enough to get you 50. And he hasn't. He hasn't. Now, there's reasons behind that, but the numbers are the numbers. You gotta use that in negotiation. So that's what you do. So now you got your quarterback on chump change, and then you got a lot of cheap labor coming in because you have all these first-round picks over the next 2 years. So now you're paying them. You got them on 5-year deals. You got 6 guys on 5-year deals, okay, that are all going to be making rookie money. And that's what you do. And that's how you go ahead and counteract the whole, well, let's reset the clock at the quarterback market. That's how you go ahead and do that. So, again, that's what I would do. I would trade the pick. I would extend Justin. I would do that, and I would move forward with my picks and establish a team and build my roster. Now, the GM has to do his job. At this point in time, I'm getting you all these picks. Now you got to do your job. Now you got to start hitting and developing on these first-round picks. And if it happens, there you go. I mean, look at Detroit. You got Penei Sewell. You got Aiden Hutchinson. You got Jahmyr Gibbs. I forget the tight end's name in my head for some reason. You got all these guys that are first-round guys that are your best players. They're your best players. And the Bears have the ability to do that if they do this correctly. Now, again, if you love Caleb, go ahead and do what you got to do. If you are a can't miss. But again, I'm telling you, you better be right. Like the Bears, they cannot be close. Like, this is not about, do you think Caleb Williams is better than Justin Fields? And for the record, I will say this. If you are asking me if they were both coming out of college at the same time, if Caleb Williams is better than Justin Fields, I would say I would have them rated a little bit higher than Justin Fields. I would do that, okay? Now, with that being said, if I had the second pick and they were both coming out and I landed Justin Fields, I would not be mad. Not at all. I would not be mad, not be sad. I would be happy with that because the gap isn't big enough. It's just not. It's just not. So if you're the Bears, you just can't be that Caleb is better than Justin Fields. It can't be that. It has to be that the gap is so outrageous that it was worth giving up all the draft capital to draft Caleb. Because if they're close and they're the same, and you somehow took a step back and you disrupted his locker room, and they're very similar, and you gave up all the draft capital you could have gotten for Caleb Williams, now you're in trouble as a GM. Now you're in trouble. But you know what? The Bears, you see him every day. You see Justin Fields every day. You know what he is. You know what he isn't. Again, I've said in previous podcasts, I don't think they love him, the player. Yeah, they don't love him, the player. They love him, the person, but not the player. So I do believe they will trade Justin. But again, if it was up to me, I gave you my landscape. I give you what I would do. That is my plan. Trade the pick. Take Marvin Harrison Jr. Go ahead and sign an extension. Sign in that $40 to $45 million range. And you start accumulating options around him. And you start doing that. Okay, so that's where I'm at on that. And that's where I'm at on the Justin and Caleb thing. But again, the Bears better make sure. He better be a lot better than Justin Fields. Because it's not just about is he better. Is he a lot better? Like, are we for sure that Justin can never reach the ceiling that Caleb Williams can? Are we 100% sure on that? Because that's what you have to be to draft Caleb Williams. That you are 1,000% sure that Justin Fields and Caleb Williams will never be equals. Will never be equals. You have to be sure of that. And if you are sure of that, then go ahead and take Caleb Williams. But if you're not, and he may be close, you cannot give up that draft capital. You cannot. You cannot do it. You cannot give up the haul you could possibly get to trade that number 1 pick. So you better be 1,000% sure that Caleb Williams is not just better than Justin Fields, but the gap is outrageous. I'm talking about at least 10 players deep, okay, that we're going to name off 10 to 12 players before we get to Justin Fields' name after we name off Caleb Williams at the quarterback position. Okay, that's what you better do in order to do that. Now, I know what people are going to say. This is the thing. There's been a lot of talk about Justin Fields and about what is he as a player. A lot of discrepancy, man. This is crazy. This is probably the biggest discrepancy I've ever seen with a player when it comes to players in their opinion on Justin Fields and media members. I think a lot of it is because the media, it's like they're regurgitating what everybody says. It's kind of like, hey, let's just reset the quarterback clock because what everybody does, it makes sense. And it doesn't not make sense. But sometimes you're going to have to pay the guy anyway. Like, you can't tell me that, I got to pay the guy $260 million and then tell me he sucks on the other end. Which one is it? Like, if he sucks, then I ain't got to pay him $260 million. So you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. You can't tell me that the kid sucks, but in Pittsburgh and in Atlanta, he's going to be great. But he sucks in Chicago. Okay? He's going to be terrible going forward with Chicago, but in Pittsburgh and Atlanta, well, I guess they don't have the same salary cap. I guess they don't. Because nobody's worried about extending him at that point in time because you're going to have to pick up the 5th-year option. You're going to have to do that. So nobody cares about it over there. But in Chicago, they care deeply about it when they have the 4th most cap space in the league right now and one of the youngest teams in the league as well. So I don't understand that, but that's what you keep telling me. All right? But let's talk about why Justin has struggled in Chicago a little bit. And when we keep talking about wins and losses and things like that, ladies and gentlemen, and if you haven't heard me before, I'm going to bring it up again. Do you know how bad the Bears defense was? 2022. That was Justin's 2nd year. So after his 1st year, coach is fired. They bring in a first-time head coach, a first-time OC's never called plays before, and a first-time GM. Okay? So we're trying to figure out if all those guys can actually do their job because we do not know. We do not know. Okay? During the 2022 season, the Bears were dead last in points per game. Let me repeat that for you. They were dead last in PPG. That is points per game, ladies and gentlemen. That's what they were. They were giving up 27.2 points a game. That's what happened. Okay, so let me ask you. You got to score. This is quick math now. You got to score more than 27 to win games. How many teams were averaging over 27 points a game in 2022? I'll tell you. It was 4. It was 4. And not one of them were the Chicago Bears. Okay. They gutted their defense. Had one of the worst offensive lines in the league and 0 weapons. Their best player, their best offensive receiver was Darnell Mooney, who is a number 3 receiver in the league. Okay. That's what he was. And you expected Justin Fields to do what exactly with that? The Bears said they were on a teardown. They said they had to get out of cap hell. They had to get rid of some guys. And to get rid of the guys, they meant Khalil Mack and they meant Roquan Smith. If you know NFL, if you know football, you know what those guys have been doing. You know that already. Okay? So I don't have to get into how good those guys are. But that's what they did. So when you start talking about records and the Bears go 3-14, and a tear down year. So when you say tear down, that means you're trying to lose games. You're not trying to win them. You're trying to lose them. Then the guy did exactly what you wanted him to do. But in the midst of it, he was keeping you in games by himself. And was one game away, which he sat out, from breaking Lamar's rookie rushing record. Excuse me, not rookie rushing record, but all-time rushing record for a season for a quarterback. He was 60 yards away from that. Most likely would have got it, but he didn't play the last game. So what did you want him to do? I'm just wondering. I'm just wondering. When your defense is giving up 27.2 points a game. Let's fast forward into 2023. Okay, let's do that. Defensively. So the Bears gave up an NFL record, 25 points per game for 14 straight games. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that bled from 2022 to 2023. So that went from the New England game in October, okay? New England in October in 2022 was the last time they had given up less than that. They had beat New England on Monday night, okay? Justin goes crazy, they win the game, all right? Not until the following October against the Washington Commanders did they not give up 25 points per game. It was almost a calendar year, ladies and gentlemen. It was from 10-24 to 10-5, almost a calendar year, where the defense didn't give up more than 25 points per game. How in the hell are you supposed to win games doing that? How? What are you supposed to do? What is supposed to happen? Then, during that time, we got Justin and the OC, not at odds, but just saying that there's a disconnect. They got me playing robotic. They don't have me playing like me. And we can all acknowledge, if you're a Bears fan, that you know that the offense never catered to Justin Fields. Okay? I'm not saying Luke Getsy is a bad offensive coordinator. I don't know that. I just know he wasn't good with Justin Fields. That's all I know. They had their moments, but consistently, they weren't good. They weren't good together. They weren't a good match. Now, maybe he's a better match in Las Vegas, but he wasn't a good match for Justin in Chicago. And they may like each other personally, But as far as schematics and teaching, not the same. He tried to turn Justin into Aaron Rodgers. That's not who he is, okay? Back to the defense. So that's how bad that team was. 14 straight 25+. Dead last in 2022. Now, 2023, they did better. After the Montez Sweat trade, I believe they played 9 games with Montez Sweat and gave up 17.8 points per game and ended up at 22.3 points per game over the season, which was 20th in the league. Not good, but considering you came from 32nd, we'll take it. But again, you have the quarterback going through these things. The offensive line, not great. Again, weapons, they got him one finally, DJ Moore. Let's not forget the Chase Claypool trade. You tried, but you struck out. He's going to be fighting for a job in the NFL next year, okay? He's going to be fighting for a job. They gave up a second-round pick for him. Did not pan out whatsoever. Not just in Chicago, but in Miami. He's going to be fighting for his NFL life next year. That did not work out. DJ Moore. So they finally get him DJ Moore. And then you tell me, hey, you know what? Justin Fields can't throw. Well, if he can't throw, how did DJ Moore have a career year this year? How did that happen? Justin played 12 and a half games. It'll be 13 in the rule books, but he got knocked out in the first half of the Minnesota Vikings game. Some will say he played 12 and a half games. And yet DJ Moore had a career year receiving. How did that happen? Cole Kmet had a career year receiving. They're tight end. How did that happen? If the guy can't throw, who threw the ball to him? Who was throwing the ball to him? If you ask me, well, Marcus, if he missed 4.5 games, then what happened in those games? Glad you asked. Because DJ Moore's yards per game went down 30 yards per game without Justin Fields in the game. That's what happened. So if he can't throw the football, how did two receivers, one receiver and a tight end, have a career year receiving if he can't throw? Who threw them the football? I just need to know if he can't throw. Now I got some more numbers for you because I know that everybody's about analytics. Everybody's about numbers. So let's go over them real quick. I went ahead and did us a favor saying, let me go ahead and push the numbers out for Justin Fields for a full 17 games this year. Okay? So that means he would have passed for 3,349 yards. He would have rushed for 858 yards for a total of 4,207 yards in total yardage with 27 total TDs and 12 interceptions. That would have been his numbers over the 17 games if he would have stayed healthy. Okay? So again, 4,207 total, 27 touchdowns total, and 12 interceptions. All right? So you say, well, what does that mean? Well, let's go to your MVP this year. Your MVP had basically 4,500 yards total, 29 touchdowns, and 7 picks. So the difference between total yards between Justin Fields and your MVP was 292 yards for 17 games. But one of them sucks and needs to be traded, and the other one's the NFL MVP. And we're talking about a 292-yard difference between total yards. Lamar beat him in passing yards. Justin beat Lamar in rushing yards. And they're 2 touchdowns away from each other. But one of them sucks, and one of them is an NFL MVP. Make it make sense. Like, I know we can go ahead and put out the numbers and say, oh, well, he's 10-28 as a starter. I get it. I also gave the numbers on the defense. I don't know how the hell you're going to win a game when your defense is getting up 27 points a game in the season. I just don't know that. I don't know how that's going to happen. I'm not aware. Okay? And when you don't give him the weapons that he needs to succeed, and then when he does get a weapon, the kid goes for a career year in career yardage. Now, if Justin would have played those 4.5, who knows what the guy would have ended up with? Who knows? So I just want you to bring the context to the table. That's all. So what I'm saying to you is that Justin Fields can play football. I know they want to tell you that. I know they want to tell you he can't. Justin Fields can play football. And the numbers say he can play football. The numbers are there. And numbers are there on bad football teams. They're there. And yes, it should be fair because he went through the mud with this team to start to see everything bloom a little bit. He planted the flowers in there. He took care of everything. The least you can do is let him watch them bloom. But unfortunately, life isn't fair. It's not fair. And this regime is going to move on from Justin Fields, and they're going to go with Caleb Williams. And again, I like Caleb Williams, and I think he's a dog, man. I really do. And I think he's going to ball in Chicago. I really do. But if you're asking me what I prefer and why I prefer it, I prefer to stay with Justin Fields. Because the numbers are showing you the ceiling is going the right way. It's showing you that's what's happening. And then all the capital we can get with that to better this team, to me, that makes the most sense. Now, I think the Bears are in a win-win either way they go. But again, if they go the way I think they're going to go, which is to go ahead and draft Caleb Williams and trade Justin Fields, they better hope and pray that the gap between these two is at least 10 deep. Because if it's 2 deep or 3 deep, they're going to regret the decision that they had with Justin Fields. Because they had him in a building and they didn't listen to everybody on their team that told them, this is the guy that we want. This is the guy that can lead our team. This is the guy that can lead the Bears. And they decided to go on their own way because of financial reasons and because they were worried about keeping their jobs. Instead of saying, hey, this is the guy that we need to take responsibility for lowering and slowing down his development because we were on a teardown. We didn't have the right pieces in place. We didn't give him anything to work with. And this kid was fighting for his life and did everything the right way and came to work every day the right way. Because we did that. And didn't take accountability for it. But again, that's probably not going to happen. They're going to draft Caleb and trade Justin Fields. Again, I think Atlanta's the play. That'll be good for him. He goes back home. They got a nice young team, young coaching, young energy. And I hope he balls out either way. I'm a Bears fan either way. But you know where I stand on this and you know where it's at. What I think is going to happen and what's going to happen. And that's what it is. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you like what you hear, like what you see, we'll be back with another one. We got some guests coming soon. Still Broke Podcast. Holla at your boy, Marcus Moore, Encyclopedia Black. We out of here. Peace out.